All right, everybody. It's JJ Conway, and I want to welcome you to our Wealth Building Thursday tonight. It is our real estate. Every third Thursday is real estate, and today I'm going to talk to you about one of my favoriteest things in the world, and that is commercial real estate. Let me say that again. Today I'm going to talk to you about one of my favoriteest things in the world, and that is commercial real estate. I know that almost every real estate class I teach is one of my favoriteest ones, but that's why I teach them. There's a whole lot of other things about real estate that I don't teach because it's not my favorite, but this is one of my favorites. If you are interested in building generational wealth, if you're interested in having something that's going to last, being able to leave something to the children's children, being able to create a new life for yourself and for those you care about, this is the class you need to be in. And today we're going to be talking about commercial real estate. All right. Now, for those of you who are new to our Thursday night agendas, I'm going to tell you every first Thursday is our fireside chat. We did have some issues with fireside chat this month, so we're actually going to broadcast that again next week during the weekdays. So get your questions in if you want. And every second Thursday is our seven-figure business building. Our seven-figure business building. I love that. And our third Thursday, it's the one that started it all. Our very first Building Wealth Together meeting, third Thursday at Kingstown, Keller Williams Kingstown in Alexandria, Virginia. And here we are, third Thursdays. We're back to third Thursdays talking about real estate. So we're going to talk a little bit. Let me put a banner up here so you can know how to fill out a comment. If you have a question about what we're talking about, you can do a couple different ways. You can drop a comment in the chat, or you can dial in and ask live, or you can ask your question if you want it to be anonymous via the form at Ask JJC. I give you that anonymous option because we do post the videos and we do extract the audio for the podcast. And so sometimes people really want to ask a question. And while I cannot give you specific financial advice without really engaging you as a client and digging into your personal situation, I can give you some general guidance. I can give the general public some general guidance on some general ideas that they would want to run through their own professionals before they implement these ideas. But today we are going to be talking about some good stuff, and what I'm going to give you is a high level overview. Okay, I want to make sure that I emphasize that because sometimes I have people come to my classes and they want to ask all the advanced questions. And my public classes are the entry level classes. They are the free classes. They are the ones that will allow you to get your feet wet and whet your appetite. And the one, the class that you like, you want to dig deeper, that's where we get to the advanced questions. Okay, so ask the advanced questions, but if it's something that's too advanced for the bulk of the new investors that are going to be on here, I might recommend that you book time with me, and you can do that at calendly.com/JJ Conway. All right. So let's go ahead and get back to the slides today. Let me see if I can do it this way so you can still see me. Okay, well, you know what? You don't need to see me. Nah, you know what? It's fun to see me. Okay. Uh, okay. I'm just so happy to be back home, y'all. It's been so much traveling. All right, so we're going to talk about upcoming events. Actually, we're not, because other than what I just told you about our our Thursday schedules, I don't have any upcoming events that I want to announce. We will be doing Women Building Wealth Together again in November. We're going to be resetting that conference, and so we're going to do it a little bit modified this year, and we're going to do it bigger, better, and badder to the bone in 2023. 2023 is going to be our 10th anniversary, y'all. So if you know you're a speaker, trainer, coach, author, and you want to participate, we going big. You know how they say, go big or go home. Hey, that goes along with commercial real estate. Well, we going big for our 10th anniversary. Our 10th annual Building Wealth Together conference will be next year, but we're going to do a little bitty one in November this year. We had a blowout women's conference in May, but I really like that November timeframe. That's where we started. That's where we're going back to our roots. But other than that, I don't think I have any other events. So I'm going to give you a little bit about real estate. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about me and what this is. And when I say what this isn't just me doing out of the goodness of my heart. I want you to be blessed and up level with real estate. I do want you to be blessed and up level with real estate, right? I do want you to change your life through real estate. And I do want you to be blessed. Absolutely. But this is also my fundraiser for the Global Youth Initiative. So all folks who are in the John Maxwell team, we have the opportunity to use John Maxwell sponsored content to lead young people to become global leaders, confident leaders. And so this is how I fundraise for that. I could go around and ask for handouts, but we have a lot of helping agencies here in town. And with all the fires and everything, I don't want to take away from that. So I'm asking, if you like this, send me 1, 5, 10, 15, 20, $2,500 to PayPal or Cash App, Queen of Cash Flow. If you would like to give through Square, if you would feel more comfortable with that, you can go to bit.ly/lovehelping, and that'll take you there, okay? And so this is our fundraiser. So I want you to be blessed. I want you to get good content, but I want you to support these kids. We've been doing good in both Erath County as well as the Arklatex, and we haven't stopped yet. We're growing and growing. All right, let me tell you a little bit about Building Wealth Together. If you are new to me and my body of work, let me tell you what we're not. First of all, this is not get rich quick. Now, I believe that real estate is one of the fastest ways to build, maintain, grow, leverage, pass on wealth in this nation. I believe it's one of the greatest foundations and rights given to us in this country, unlike some of the countries I've lived in, being a military brat and an Air Force veteran. It's one of the things that we can do in this country that you can't always do in every other country. So there are many other legit ways to get rich than real estate. But one thing you will not find out of JJ Conway is you will not find me talking about get rich quick. Now, that doesn't mean I won't introduce you to a pyramid scheme here or there, but there's always qualifications and there's always due diligence and all that kind of things, okay? Because some people look at even things like, well, I don't even want to start naming, but some things are really legit, but they appear to have a pyramid structure. And as long as there's a legitimacy behind it, I don't have a problem with that. I don't teach you that, because I teach what works for the greatest number of people, and real estate works for the greatest number of people. Y'all, I'm going to talk to you about 21 different ways, just as an overview, that you can build wealth with real estate, even if you never buy the house. All right. And so here we want you to learn. We want you to achieve your goals, not our goals for you, but we want to help you achieve your goals with education, accountability, and all of the goodness that you need, the support system that you need, the making it plain that you need. Like, how many times have you gone to a real estate or some other kind of investment or insurance or some kind of conference? You got to that hotel room, you got your free ticket, you get in there, and then they sell you that $99 boot camp. You come back on the weekend and you leave more confused than when you came in. That's not what this is about. We're about empowering you and educating you so you can make the best decisions for your family, so you can elevate your family. Too many of us feel like we can't make it. Too many of us feel like the way we're born and what we're born into and the social status and the economic status of what we're born into is just where we are. And there are some countries on this earth where if you're born into one caste, even in today's modern day and time, you are stuck in that caste. But there is always a way to break free and achieve your dreams in this great state, this great country, the United States of America. All right, so we're going to talk about one of the greatest things the United States of America offers to anybody who wants to come here, work hard, and build wealth, and that is real estate. All right. So when we talk about real estate, when we talk about building wealth together, I want you to know that this is one of my favorite things in the world. But you see my son on this next slide. For those of you who are listening on free conference call, you cannot see the slide. It is a slide of my son on crutches. It took me forever, y'all, to get a picture of this kid on crutches because he did not want to be seen on crutches. But because he's on crutches, y'all, I'm not so sure that he's going to make it onto the varsity team this year, which means I'm going to go back to during fall football on Thursdays, football on Fridays, football on Saturdays, and watching the Saints and the Steelers and the Seahawks because I support my men folk on Sundays. So, y'all who have not heard my football spiel, I will save it for another day. But I just want y'all to pray for him. I am selfishly asking for y'all to pray for him so that I can keep my Thursday classes where they are. The first year that he played freshman ball, I still tried to make it work. And y'all saw me. Those of you who've been with me for a while, I was broadcasting from underneath the bleachers. I was broadcasting from out in the parking lot in front of the school bus. I was broadcasting from wherever I could broadcast from. And then last year I said, okay, this didn't work. Freshman ball, that didn't work. So he was on JV. I moved the classes to Thursday nights, and we did Think and Grow Rich with Camille. That was a fantastic class. You can still go out there and buy the recordings. It's an amazing class. If you've never taken Think and Grow Rich, you should. We're going to do Think and Grow Rich soon. We're going to do it from the lens of an investor. And when I talk about investor, I'm not just talking about a put $50 in a month in the real estate, not real estate, put $50 a month in the mutual fund. You should put $50 a month, $100 a month, $200 a month, $500 a month. Whatever you spend on Starbucks and junk food, go ahead and put that in the stock market every month. It will do you well. All right. But I'm talking about investing in things like crypto and in real estate investment. So we're going to look at Think and Grow Rich. The same thing we've done for like 4 or 5 years in a row now, but we're going to look at it through the lens of investing in things that seem bigger than us. Oh, it's going to be great. Okay, but what I really, really would like is to not move my teaching day. Look, y'all, I just want a light at the end of this tunnel with this football. Don't get me wrong. Okay, I think I've talked enough about things that are not real estate. Please pray for him. Pray for him and pray for his mama. All right. Okay, again, this is our annual fundraiser. All these classes used to be one big day. I used to do one big day of real estate in the Pierre Bossier Mall, and that's how we sold tickets to that. We took donations for that. We did a little fundraiser auction for that. That's how I used to raise money for this. Now I'm teaching the classes piecemeal over the span of a year. I'm asking you to go ahead and donate to our event. All right. Okay, so who am I and why on earth should you listen to me talk about real estate investing? Well, I've been helping people get out of debt since 1998. The reason I started helping people get out of debt is because when I could not afford Larry Burkett's $8 cassette tape program to help me get out of debt, he gave it to me for free and said, all I'm going to ask you to do is use the materials to help somebody else. Now, people don't do that anymore. People don't do that anymore. They don't create pathways and they don't pour into and bless because there's so many scamsters out there. And that's one of the ways that's one of the reasons why I will always have some kind of free class where you can get your questions answered. Because if as I lift up, if you can't afford my new prices, I want to have a pathway because I remember what it was like when I was in all that debt. And I fell into all that debt. Larry Burkett helped me get out of debt. I started helping people get out of debt, and then I lost everything because I didn't think real estate debt counted as debt. Well, look, I'm so hard-headed, y'all. I'm so hard-headed, y'all. I had to learn that lesson several times. So the real estate debt got me. Then the business debt got me. Oh, and didn't the devil think he was slick and come along with church debt? Ooh, y'all, I could talk to you about some debt. So I know a thing or two about debt. I know a thing or two about getting out of debt. I know a thing or two about what it's like to be stressed out. You can't pay your bills. Make 6 figures. You still can't pay your bills. Make 6 figures. Your car about to be repoed and your house about to be foreclosed on. Yeah, I know what that's like. It's not a good feeling. And I now empower women to improve their lives with financial management, workplace excellence courses, and real estate education. I should probably make that investment education, but that's okay. We mostly focus on real estate. All right, this is my big why. This is my original big why. My original big why, y'all. When I remember those days, when I remember when I couldn't afford, where I couldn't afford to live anywhere. And I remember when not that I couldn't afford to live anywhere, but I remember when I was in transition and I couldn't find a place to stay and nobody wants to rent. Nobody wants to rent. This is the thing. I understand that the world is just ridiculous right now. And so it's really, really hard to want to help somebody. But I remember coming home from that trip. My house was sold. My stuff was thrown out. We're about to sign these divorce papers, $800 and something thousand in debt. And I didn't know how much debt it was, but I come home from that trip. He picks me up from the airport, takes me to his new apartment, says, I'm turning around and flying out for a couple of days. I'll see you on Monday. We'll sign the divorce papers. I got 2-3 days to figure out what I'm gonna do with the rest of my life, y'all. And I'll tell you what I discovered in that moment, that nobody wants to. It doesn't matter how much money you make. You don't come from a good family. You don't have the right complexion. You don't have what they call the complexion for protection. You don't come from the right this. You don't come from the right that. You don't have the right this, and you don't have the right that behind your name. You don't have the right kinfolk because you're military. You're moving around and around and around. You ain't got no people where you living. Nobody wants to rent to somebody who needs a place that night. And so I remember what that feels like. I remember what it feels like to have obligations to travel here, there. I remember one of my very first speaking engagements, sleeping in my car, y'all. And I remember coming here and coming there and not being able to do anything for myself. I remember sleeping in a moldy basement apartment when I couldn't afford anything else. That was the first time that he left. I remember having to live off of Bible study fellowship food, going from Bible study to Bible study so I could get something to eat. I'm so sad. Look, that's why I don't get mad at people now. They come to eat. I'm okay. You're gonna hear me preach first, but I'm okay with feeding you because I remember when I was the one who did that. Look, you want to drop your babies off in my Sunday school class? Look, I will let you because I remember when I was the one who dropped my baby off of your Sunday school class because I just needed 45 minutes to breathe as a full-time single military mom. Oh, I remember those days. I remember sleeping in many a Walmart parking lot. I remember hopping around from Sam's Club to Myers to Publix to whatever the grocery stores were at the base I was stationed at, trying to look cool because here I am, Miss Major, then Lieutenant Colonel, trying to look like I'm somebody, but eating free samples as our dinner. I remember those days. That's the real original reason why I learned how money worked and how to get out of debt. And as my life has grown, as my family has grown, as I remarried and this cute little one over here came along, my big why has really expanded, and now it's to change communities. I'm called, I have been equipped, I have been empowered to change communities, and I hope that you'll be along with me on this journey. And I hope that through my teachings that you yourself will be empowered and equipped to change communities. I'm not just here for myself. No, don't get me wrong. I'm here for me. I do want to bless my family through the things that I offer you, but I'm here to help change communities. That's what I'm called to do. Because if we ain't making a difference, I could be making no difference at home on my couch with my husband. Anybody hear me today? Drop something in the chat. Let me know you hear me. Let me know you're here. I want to thank those of you who are here. I want to thank you for being on today. Y'all do my heart good. All right. All right. Let's go ahead and get into the main meat of what we're talking about. So I've been through a few things, and now I teach people how to get out of debt, how to invest, how to improve your corporate standing at work. If you want to be an entrepreneur, how to create multiple streams of income. Anything is going to take your money to the next level. That's what I'm here for. But today we're talking about commercial real estate. So let's start with a little bit of foundation. Those of you who've been with me for a while, you've seen these slides. Thank you, brother. I appreciate that. You've seen these slides before, but I think it bears remaining. There are many, many, many ways to profit with real estate. I have extracted my favorite 21 right here. 21 ways to profit with real estate. And the cool thing about this slide, y'all, is that if you're on free conference call, you can't see the slide. So I'm encourage you to go loop back and see this on my YouTube channel or my Facebook before it gets pulled off of Facebook. There's some that are shaded in blue. There's 17, 18, 18 that are 19, 20, 21, 17 that are math in public. Yes, I did science for 23 years in the Air Force, and yes, I'm a financial planner. There are 17 of these things that are shaded in blue, and that's to represent where you can really make some serious money even if you don't buy the house. And on my next slide, I've got a column that's shaded that these are ones that you can make serious money even if you don't have money of your own to get started. Okay, so wherever you're at in your financial journey, okay, there's still room at the end for you. There's room in real estate for you. And that's why I love real estate. There's so many different ways that you can profit from it. You can profit from the property itself, like you can own or control the property. Sometimes we don't have the credit or the money or the backing to own a property, but we can control it and we get the cash flow. And if we own it, we can get appreciation. Okay, maybe we don't want to deal with tenants and toilets. Okay, so maybe we don't want to deal with tenants and toilets, but there's other industries all around investing. So you got real estate services. You could be a broker. You could be a property manager. You could be one of the trades that come in and repair it. You could do what we call the the extra touches. You could be the person that decorates and brings in the couches and the tables so that when people come and walk into your somebody else's open house, they don't feel like it's just one big blank room, but instead you put the little touches in there to make it feel homey, and they can really see themselves in there. Maybe you're really good at photography, you know then we have what I call ancillary services. And so ancillary services is going to be the things that doesn't it doesn't matter what property you're in. It's something that's all around the property. So you've got making money from the property, making money from serving people who buy and sell the property. Then you have making money related to the property. So it's going to be your vending machines, your ATMs, your Bitcoin ATMs, stuff like that. Okay. It's gonna be stuff like that. Another ancillary service I could probably put on there is laundromat. Some apartment complexes, even ones with hookups, might want to provide laundry services. Some don't because they provide hookups, but an enterprising entrepreneur might be able to say, well, look, you provide hookups, but this could be a value added in a particular space, and I'll let me come in and let me use some of your unused basement space and set up. So, there's really a lot of ways to make money in real estate. It's only limited by your creativity, and you can absolutely make money with real estate, y'all. And so what we're going to be talking about today is we're going to be talking um, about commercial. And I want to emphasize that whether it's residential or commercial, we've got to be very careful not to fall into the trap that so many investors fall in, which is where we think that, well, if I just buy it, it's going to be good. So even if I'm cash flow negative right now, it's still good. I'm the queen of cash flow for a reason. I want you to make money with your purchase. I don't want you losing money. I want you to have, whenever you sign anything on the dotted line, I want increased cash flow. When we rework your spend plan, I want increased cash flow. When you invest in this and that program, I want increased cash flow. If it doesn't increase cash flow, it needs to outgo. So my recommendation is that investors follow the number one rule of real estate investing, which is you make your money when you buy. I'm going to say it one more time. You make your money when you buy. And one more time for those in the back, you make your money when you buy. A property that you acquire at 70 to 80% of the cost, your cost to its value, is going to make you money. Whether you keep it, somebody else buys it, whether you need to leverage it in a hurry, anything like that. Now, this does sound like a very simple rule, but of course, like anything, it's simple, but it's not easy. If it was easy, everybody would do it. Okay. And so I normally talk about, let me go ahead and throw the slide up. I normally talk about how we can't all start everywhere. We just start where we are. My big thing as a financial planner is I don't want you going into debt. I don't want you risking your family's future. I don't want you risking your mortgage. I don't want you risking your kids' 529 when they go into college next year. I don't want you risking those kinds of things to invest in real estate. We can always find an avenue for you to invest in real estate that works for your personality, your available energy, strength, and health, the money that you have available, whether it's your money or family or someone else's money, and other things like that. And y'all know I'm not a big fan of debt, but we can always find creative ways to work things in accordance with your situation. Okay. And so if you don't have a lot of time, if you don't have a lot of money, you trade your time for some other investor's money. And you can help a lot of investors by helping them locate properties. And that's what I mean by, if you don't have any savings, credit, experience, and money, you start with bird dogging and wholesaling. And you can do these with commercial. So let me talk real quick. Look, bird dogging and wholesaling, that was way back in February, right? So we're not digging into all of that today, but I just wanted to highlight that you can use these strategies to make money in commercial real estate. So if you're interested in that, go back, either buy the course that has all of these videos in it, and some of them are still available on, most of them have been taken down. I'm taking them down as I find them, but some of them are still available on YouTube. Okay. So bird dogging is where you find a property for somebody else to buy. So like you're going along on vacation, you see a boarded up property that looks like it could be commercial and profitable. You tell me about it, I go buy it, and then you get something. Depending on what state you're in and what the legalities are of how I can compensate you, you get something from that, usually about 1% of the deal. Wholesaling is the same thing, except for you don't just find the property and tell me about it. Now you find the property, you lock it down with a real sales contract. You have worked out an agreement with the seller to sell that property for X amount at X terms. And you give me that contract, you assign me that contract, and I buy that contract. And because you did more legwork, you make more money. This is a real win-win for people who are getting started. And I know people who have gotten out of debt, out of hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt. Let me say that again. I know people who have gotten out of hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt using wholesaling as their real estate strategy. They didn't even buy any property at first. They wholesaled, got out of debt, wholesaled, saved up the money to buy their own property. Y'all, it's a very powerful technique. All right. I have a whole wholesaling 101 plus the driving for dollars 101 to help you do that. Okay. So what is this commercial property that we're talking about today? It is anything that's really not residential. I know that sounds kind of silly, but that's really what it is. So residential is property that's zoned for people to live in. Commercial is everything else. What's cool about commercial property is you've got a lot higher income potential than you have over residential. And plus, because generally speaking, maybe not always with um, certain types of use of land or use of apartments or things like that, sometimes most of the time you have a greater incentive for the tenants to protect the property because it's a reflection of their business or their status. With commercial property, you generally have better business hours and you can pass more costs on to your tenants. We're going to talk about that today. I'm so glad you're on today. Thank you so much, ma'am. Um, one of the great things about commercial real estate is it's a lot more, let's say, profitable, but it is not for the faint of heart. Why is it not for the faint of heart? It's not for the faint of heart because there's a high initial investment. You don't have any consumer protections. And whenever you do stuff, that's a technical term. Whenever you renovate, whenever you do, build a new wall, whenever you install a new air compressor, whenever you fix the ductwork, all the things that you might do, new water heater, new plumbing, all of that stuff, you don't just get your brother down the street to come on and help you out. You got to have everything done to code. Okay. So this is one of those situations where you definitely could do it alone, but I would recommend that you get educated from investors who are in your backyard doing the deed. And if you've never been to a real estate investment meeting before, oops, I got the wrong. Oh, y'all, I'm so sorry. This whole time I've been posting the wrong banner. So for those of you on free conference call, you can't see it, but on here I've got a form that says we have a hands-on training. That was for my last class. Give me a second. Give me a second and let me edit that, okay? Because that's gonna bother me now. Let me edit that. Yeah, that was a really good training. If you didn't come to that training, we did the I'm pretty sure that was the free money from Amazon. That was the free money from Amazon Zoom that we did. Okay, let me just take all that out. Oh my goodness. If you tried to sign up for it, I do apologize. But you know what? Look, if you want a class, if y'all want a class, let me tell you something about a class. If you ever want to dig more into this stuff that I'm able to talk about in a free class on Thursday nights, you can absolutely bring me to your church, your women's group, your any group really for that matter. You can even bring me to your home. I mean, the fee is the fee. You bring me in and we will sit down and talk and we will go through all of that. You want to gather, you want to gather 5 people and everybody chip in. Gather 5 people and chip in. We'll go to a restaurant. We'll get a room. You want to get 100 people together and chip in? We'll go get a room at a hotel. All I'm going to say is you set it up. You cover the fees, and I will show up and deliver. And we'll talk real talk about these things in a real hands-on class environment. And so it's always a lot of fun. And I encourage you to do that. All right, now that I've got my banner fixed, let me go ahead and put it back on. All right, so this is probably a great time to say, if you've got a question, you can drop it in the comments, okay? When I get to a break point in whatever I'm saying, then I will answer the questions. if you don't want to ask it publicly, you can go to askjjc.com. And if you want to talk to me, ask your question. So you don't want to just do this back and forth where you drop a comment and then wait, let me do it this way so you can see me. So you don't want to just like drop a comment and then I need more information and then I type I need more information and then hopefully you saw that and then you try to go back and watch the replay because you got distracted. You got to put the kid to get, just dial into the free conference call. Do *6, and some carriers will ask you to also do 1. Get in the queue. And every so often, like right now, I check the queue to see who's there. Thank you all who are on the line. But if I see anybody in the queue, then I will bring them in and they will be able to ask questions. Well, you can't right now because I forgot to put it in Q&A mode. Let me do that.
Session has started.
There we go. Okay. So this way you can get your questions answered. Okay, so commercial property, let me go back to those slides. Commercial property, again, it's anything that's not residential. So residential is where people were living. So you can have property that's zoned for mixed use where people live and there might be shops there as well. But generally speaking, commercial is going to be anything that's not zoned for people to live in. There's very specific rules about residential real estate, very specific consumer protections that have to happen. Okay, and so in commercial, you don't have those protections, and you have to be very careful to make sure you do everything to code, because you can really, if you're doing anything that endangers the public, there's no consumer protections for you as a buyer of commercial real estate. But my, there are some issues that can come up and shut your whole business down if you're violating fire code or any of these other things that protect the public. Okay, so let's talk real briefly about some of these different things. We're going to talk about apartments first. Apartments, we're all pretty familiar with apartments, but I just want to kind of make sure everybody's on the level playing field. Like John Maxwell says, put the cookies on the bottom shelf. All right. So a lot of times, some of us will think of apartments and we think of these big old apartment complexes, but apartments don't have to be a big old apartment complex. You can have apartments that are 10 units, 12 units, 4 units, 6 units, depending on how it is, that it can be a small apartment set. One of the great things about apartments is that it really kind of puts all of your time, repair costs, management costs, all that stuff under one roof. And it really is it can be, let me not say that it always is, but it can be a great way to scale, to have more units with less costs. Okay. Also, apartments have been strong for the last couple of years. And although financial experts are starting to waver a little bit now on whether or not we're headed for a crash, they're still wavering on whether or not the Fed and all that is doing what they need to do to prevent a crash. We'll see what happens with that. But apartments have been solid for a while. Rents have been solid for a while. Thing about apartments is you got to know property management can make or break you. So this is one of those things where you do want to get educated. You want to understand who you are in the role and make sure that you clearly communicate that. If you're a cream puff, like I can sometimes be a cream puff. Now it's funny. I'm not a cream puff when I'm managing somebody else's property. So I had to learn to become the property manager rather than being the owner of the properties that I run. So in our case, we do a lot of things within a company, and I make sure that I'm a particular member of that company. Now there may be a fair amount of beneficiaries for me, but I had to know my limits, and I understood very quickly. It took me a few years to where I could actually be the owner of a property and be the owner. And be okay saying, no, you're not going to get this and that allowance. And some of us were not like that. I know I wasn't when I first got started. And I'll tell you at the end, if you want to hear some funny stories, stay on at the end, because I don't want to keep talking funny stories and then run out of time to teach the content. But I'll tell you a funny story of what changed me from being only a bulldog with, and I don't want to say bulldog, that's the wrong word, but from being real tough on other people's properties when I was managing their properties and being a real cream puff with mine. I'll tell you the incident that changed that. If you want to hear it, drop back at the end and ask me. All right. But you got to know who you are and yourself. And there's a lot you can learn about your properties when people think you're just the gardener, or when people think you just want to come and rent and you just want to see how the property management is doing. Right. So you want to get educated. And again, you got to make sure that your numbers work. And again, people a lot of times buy, oh, this is going to be great. I'm going to get this apartment and I'm going to live in one. And that can be wonderful when it happens. Okay. That can be wonderful when it happens. But, but you got to make sure your numbers work. You got to make sure your numbers work, and you got to make sure that you understand the market. And some of us can't do that on our own. We may need to engage the services of a realtor or somebody else. And even if it costs a little bit, just get the numbers and make sure your numbers work. You'll save something more later. So I'm going to give you an example. This is one of my favorite examples of an apartment purchase. Now, some of you have heard the details of this story. This is the guy who started going back out with me, and we got through this deal, and I thought he was liking me. And then the next thing I know, as soon as this deal closed, he broke up with me. So I said, oh, I got played real hard. Okay. But this was actually one of my favorite deals, despite the story that goes with it, because it was just so profitable. And it shows the power of what you can do when you've got a little bit of money saved up. People always talk about don't waste your own money on this and don't waste your own money on that. But let me tell you what happened in this situation. This was fabulous. Okay. So I shouldn't say friend, I should say acquaintance. I need to change that slide. So this guy I used to know, he bought a 24 unit apartment near his college. Now, at the time, he would come down to his college for football games all the time, and I would go with some of them with him. And I guess I just seem to like guys who like football. I don't know what that is all about. Well, they do say you go after guys like your dad, right? So he was spending already. You can see in this, for those of you who are on the free conference call, you can't see the slide, but I've got all the numbers written out on this. He was already spending about $1,500 a month visiting the school. And that $1,500 a month went into the account year round. So even when it wasn't football season, that money was going into the account to cover football season. So that's an average of what he was spending every year anyway. Okay. The mortgage on this is not accurate. It was certainly not 100. It was certainly not 1.5 million a month. Okay, I'm sorry. That should probably be 1,500 a month. He bought this 24 unit apartment. It was 400,000 purchase price. He put 100 down, so that makes it 300,000 he had to finance. What he decided to do, and y'all know I don't really care much for financing, but this is the deal that he did. Okay, he was already spending this money. It was the same as what his mortgage was going to be. It was what he was already spending in hotels and food and all that other stuff. So what he did was he has this apartment complex. Instead of spending it in the hotels, he's spending it on an apartment complex. He's using, oops, let me slip the slide. He's using 2 units for his hospitality suite, okay, which left him, I got the typo on this slide too, which left him 22 other units he could rent. Now, when I calculated all this out for him, and he actually had higher than this, he had a lower vacancy rate. But what I like to do when I calculate things out for my clients is, even though we're going to put things in place, we're going to put policies and procedures in place to lower our vacancy rates. I like to use an industry standard so that we know at least have a baseline. Because remember, my goal is that you're going to make your money when you buy. I want you to make your money when you buy. And most apartments nationwide, you're going to have about a 25% vacancy rate. So on average, you're going to expect 18 units to be rented, and we're coming below the market at 450 a unit. Okay, so now he's bringing in 8,100 a month based on that vacancy, more if it's all the way rented out. And then we do allowances for the repairs. You got to keep the lights. When you have an apartment complex, if there's stairs, the tenants aren't paying for those stairs, they're paying their rent, but you got to clean, you got to get somebody to clean those. I was going to say, you got to clean those stairs. No, you got to pay somebody to clean those stairs. You got to pay somebody to maintain those stairs. If you got mailboxes and all that stuff, you got trash cans and all that, somebody got to pay to maintain all that. And if you're hiring a property manager, or if you're hiring cleaning supplies or cleaning services, or you're hiring, your maintenance crew, however that is happens, somebody got to pay for it, right? So you factor all that out. But look at this number here. So in a matter of so this guy, this was what, 2011, right? So by now, so by now that property should be well paid for and the rent's probably up, making 100,000 a year. Okay? So you don't look at something that's a small local backyard deal and think that it can't be a blessing to you. It can absolutely be a blessing to you. He came ahead money wise, okay? And so I want you to think about creative ways that you can think about a small apartment complex. We drive past them all the time. What does your town need that it doesn't have? I look around my little town and I can already tell you two or three things that I would do if I could acquire control of some of these apartments that we have around here. I know exactly what I would do. I have two things that I would do with them. I'm not going to tell you them online, but there are two things I would do with them. And if I did them, I already know my profits would go up and I already know there's a market for it. Okay. And so that's the kind of thing you want to do. Now, another category we're going to talk about is retail. And I want you to be creative with retail. Okay. Now is maybe not the time to buy retail. I'm just going to be honest with you. We're still waiting to see what's happening with this whole pandemic reverberation. But easing into the end of the year, into next year, some of those deals might start dropping now, but I haven't seen them in my market yet. My market, our local college just went up to D1 last year, and they got big plans for expansion. And all of our commercial real estate has skyrocketed. All of our residential real estate has skyrocketed. Like prices have gone up 40% in the last 2 years. It's redonkulous, and so everybody has to know their market. But I want you to think creatively about this. If you've got a business, if you've got a church, if you've got a service, a nonprofit, and you're having trouble getting to rent because a lot of businesses, nonprofits, and things like that, they're not a good fit for a retail. They're not a good fit for a retail a profit and loss statement. The banks don't look at a church as a profitable tenant. So the value of that would have been a really good first slide. Okay, so let me go back here. Let me just phrase something. I've taught this class for like 7 or 8 years now, and it never occurred to me to put this in the front. Okay, commercial real estate is valued by the money you make off of it. Okay. And we are going to talk about that later. We're going to talk about return on investment. I think I'm going to skip past the slides where we calculate different ROIs, just because that's really more of a workshop style. And maybe we'll set up a workshop if there's enough interest. But commercial real estate is based on what you make of it. So if I have a small retail strip center and I'm making $100,000 a month off of that strip center, the value of what somebody is willing to pay for that, what an investor is willing to pay for that, is based on those cash flows. If you've got a church, if you've got 5 units, okay, let's make the math easy. We got 5 units, and each one of them is paying me $20,000 a month in rent, and they're also bringing revenue to the neighborhood. They're bringing business to the neighborhood. They're bringing people who have money to spend to the neighborhood. There's all these different calculations that go into that. And a lot of times, if you have a retail, you're gonna give them rent plus what a percentage of what they're making. Okay, but when you put a church in, look, I was a pastor for 4 years. I'm probably going to be a pastor soon here in a year or two. I don't know how that's going to all work out, but I love my faith and I love going to church and I love serving the Lord. But one thing that church people don't do is church people don't take very good care of property, and church people don't spend a lot of money. Even when we go out to eat after church, do we tip? No, we don't tip. I tip because I know that church people don't tip, and I want to make sure that people, any group that takes care of me and my folks, I want to make sure they're well compensated. But there's all these negative stigmas against people who are of faith. You know what happens a lot of times with people of faith? They don't pay their rent because they believe that Jesus paid it all. Okay. And so you have all these issues that go into calculating the value of your retail strip center or any kind of commercial property. And when the bank looks at that, or when somebody wants to go buy it, the value is determined by what this property is being used for, and ultimately what profit can be extracted from the property. Okay, it's not just this, it's not the same with the house. I have a nice, beautiful house. I have a very small house, y'all. But it's a nice house. It's a nice, beautiful house. We made it as beautiful as we can. And it's X cost per square foot in this neighborhood. So if I build a bigger house in this neighborhood, that house is going to cost more, but the average cost in this neighborhood is let's just say it's $100 a square foot. I don't know what it is. I've never looked it up, but whatever it is, that's what it is. I could run a business out of that house, and you're not going to pay me more for it unless I have like some exclusive studio coolness, and you're a person who likes that. Most people, that's a detractor because now they got to rip all that out and put their baby nursery in there, right? That property is based on the value of my property where I live in my house is based on the square footage, the amenities, and the location. What schools are around it, whether I'm close to the cops, where I'm close to the fire department, what the crime is like, all of those factors. Commercial property is worth what can I profit from this? So it's two totally different kinds of calculations. All right. So, so the cool thing about retails and office, and like I said, I don't know that that's really, I'm not an expert. I'm not trying to give you financial advice without you being a paid client. But retail and office may not be the best time to buy it now. You might find that the market is a little overpriced right now. They are projecting a lot of softening in the market for residential. I think that's going to transfer. My projection is that that's going to transfer to retail. I am trying to put myself in a position to be able to take advantage of that softening. We just haven't seen it in my local market yet because, again, the college situation. So keep that in mind. You might say, well, I could never get a retail place. You know, I'm going to tell you something. There are a lot of retail places you can get a hold of that you may never even have thought simply by building a relationship with the owner. Okay. And I put this church example here because when you have a business or a nonprofit, when you have a business that people don't like, okay, when you have, excuse me, and you would think I'm not just talking about stuff that you shouldn't be doing, okay? I'm not talking about stuff you shouldn't be doing. But a lot of people don't want a financial planner. If I'm not because I'm not connected with any of the big houses. So a lot of people don't want me in their place because I don't have a name. I'm not drawing anybody, right? And so you're trying to get your business off the ground, and you're Susie's sewing company, and you can't seem to get anybody to let you in. Well, you might take a different approach. And so I put this church here. This is one of the things that I helped one of my former pastors look at. They were paying $3,700 a month in rent, and I found them a facility that they could buy where they would have 2,700 a month in mortgage. And so sometimes you don't realize that you could actually do better with your retail to buy the facility than to rent it. Now, I am not a big fan. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm teaching this because I believe in teaching a complete education. I'm not a big fan of taking on commercial mortgages, especially if your pastor cannot afford to pay that off of their own tithes and offerings. Okay. That's a whole nother discussion, but I just want to make sure I put that plug in there because I see we have a lot of new people on who aren't familiar with me and my body of work. And so I don't want you to think, I don't want to mislead anybody today. Okay. But I'm gonna tell you if you've got a really good commercial private lending deal, or if you think you want to be interested in this, I can connect you with some people that are doing business. And if you know what you're talking about and they see you as trustworthy, and I say project trustworthiness because that's not the same as being trustworthy. Sometimes we can be a trustworthy person, but the way we carry ourselves and the things we say and do and some of our facial expressions may not project trustworthiness. Ask me how I know. Okay. I'm the queen of wonky faces. I'm the queen of cash flow. I'm the queen of wonky faces. Okay. So, it's actually easier to put together a joint venture project with a commercial if you've done your due diligence because there's so much clout as well as desire for those deals. Okay. I thought I had another slide on here. It must be later. But we'll talk about that a little bit later. Land. I love land. They're not making more of it, so it's a great thing to do, right? The thing about land, good news, it doesn't depreciate. I mean, it doesn't go down in value very often. Bad news, because it doesn't go down in value, you're not going to be able to take depreciation on the taxes. Your land is you're going to buy it and sink money into it, and if you get a mortgage for it, that's negative cash flow. So I'm not cool with that unless you have a plan. And land is hard to liquidate. Okay. That said, there's a lot of great things you can do with land. I mean, hey, if you find there's a piece of land I wish I would have bought. It was so beautiful. And I had an opportunity to buy it for $1,000, and I regret not doing it. But at that time I was like 500 something $1,000 in debt. So $1,000, I just wasn't going to pluck in it in some land. So, I'm just waiting for the Lord to turn that around. for me. But there's other things that you can do. You can subdivide the land. You can work with a developer to plat it and build on it. Okay. You can you can speculate. This is what they call it land speculating. But I'm gonna tell you something. You shouldn't be speculating, because in most jurisdictions you don't have to speculate. In most jurisdictions you can actually go to the meetings where they're doing all the planning zone and where they're doing all of the 10-year plans and all that stuff, and you can actually find out what's coming down the pike. So you don't really have to speculate too much. If you're in an area that does urban planning, they plan that stuff out. We were going to buy a plot of land that had a billboard on it, and we had the contracts from Cox and everything like that, that we were basing the value of the land on. Again, the value of the commercial property is based on the cash flows. And in this, Cox was paying them about $100,000 a month for this land. So we were confident, and we were made an offer of $1 million on this land, because if I'm getting a cash flow, if I'm getting a cash flow of $100,000 a month, I I'm gonna pay $1 million for that cash flow, right? Okay, so that's like a 10 cap. Okay, let me see what I've got. Some questions over here. So but you know what I'm saying? Like, ooh, this is a deal. And so this is where it's like, okay, between spidey senses and the spirit, you got to ask yourself, why on earth are they willing to sell us this? This is such a juicy deal. And then we go look in the land records, and we see that 5 years ago they only paid 163,000 for it, and we're like, oh yeah, this is good. This is a win-win-win. We love the win-win-win, right? We love the win-win-wins. That was a win for them, because they're going to make this huge money. They bought it for 160K, and now they're going to sell it for 1 million. We get the win because we're going to get this piece of land, and we might be able to still put a small church on it, and it's already got cash flow positive. I mean, we're really excited about this. Well, then we start doing our research in the land records, and we find out that 10 years ago they said they were going to cap off Brandywine Road. This is in Prince George's County, Maryland. They're going to cap off Brandywine Road, and they're going to they're going to turn Branch Avenue, I think it was, into an overpass. And okay, so that took them what? That took them, maybe they completed that in 2016 or 2017. So it took them 25 years to do it. But right before these people put that property on the market, they had gone to the meeting where it was finally approved to put everything in and they had in I'm sorry, let me say that again. They had finally had the meeting to approve putting everything in motion. So they've been planning on it, planning on it, planning on it, planning on it. Oh, we're going to do it. That's when they put the property up for sale. So you've got to understand the situation around the land. And so while they call it land speculating, you really want to understand what the land is doing. Okay, let me see if we've got some questions here. Oh, you know what? There's plenty of business in the state of Minnesota. I don't know it, I know one thing about the United States of America. There is not a state in the United States of America where there is not plenty of business. So I don't know. And I like how you're thinking here, and I always like praise. I will always take praise. But the thing about and it's secured investment, land is secured, okay? Because it's the land. Like, you buy the land, you got the land. And that's like the ultimate thing, right? But we have to understand an investment is something that makes money. So if you were in my creative financing class where we talked about subject to, and I talked about that red church, that I loved that red church. I was so excited about the subject to deal. And I mean, the Lord really had to come in and shut the door on me, because my heart was all in it. And you're not supposed to fall in love with any real estate, but I mean, just the story and the situation. And I was going to be a blessing to those owners, and they were going to be a blessing to me. And I mean, it was just, but they lost value. Their land and their property was not worth what they paid for it. And so just because it's land, we still have to make sure that the numbers work. All right. All right. So let's go back to this here. So I thought I talked about oh nope, that must be in the workshop. Okay. Well, there's other things that you can do that are commercial property. Like, you can take some land and you can put some you can do a parking lot for RVs and boats and things like that. You can do mobile homes. That's also a form of commercial. You've got storage sheds and industrial space. All those metal buildings you see along the highways. There are all those metal buildings. It's where people get started. I mean, I wouldn't mind one of them. It's right off the highway, right? But there's a lot of different things that are commercial. So I see that the time is starting to tick. So let me do this. Let me go ahead. That's probably why I hid some of those slides, because I knew I was going to talk a lot. Let me switch to how we find commercial property, because you might be saying, well, JJ, this sounds really, really cool, but how am I going to find these diamonds in the rough? Because everything I see is way outside my my pay grade, and everything I see is way outside of my relationship level. And a lot of real estate, especially commercial, is about relationships. It's about building relationships with the people. So when I was building relations, let me finish that thought. Building relationships with the people who will help you acquire relationship real estate later. Okay. Because and this is why when I was trying to rent a place, I wasn't just trying to rent any place. I was specifically going after people who owned their own small retail strip malls, and they were a mom and pop owner. They might have been an LLC, but it was a mom and pop owner, somebody that I could build a relationship with that was more mature than me, although I'm a lot older than I look. But when they were going to be ready to transition that property, and when they were going to be ready to not want to have to deal with that property anymore, I would have formed a relationship with them and be in prime position to buy it from them. So that was a very specific goal that I had, a very specific intention that I had for building the relationships with whoever I was renting with. Okay, so I wasn't just looking to just get in a place. I wanted to get in a place that I could eventually buy, and I didn't want to have to take on a lot of debt. So there are creative strategies that you can use. But before you can use any creative strategies, and that was last month's class, all right, you're going to need to find the property. So the property, it's the same as with residential. I really do recommend that you look for things that are close to home and things that are going to be affordable for you. And if it's not affordable for you to buy, it may be affordable for you to control. And that's where we get back into a lot of those creative strategies that we talked about last month. Okay. With finding commercial property, you can also do what we talk about in residential, which is driving for dollars. This is actually really cool in states where you can look up the information. A lot of jurisdictions will allow you to look up tax information, ownership information. Some of them, you got to go down to the courthouse or the land records and do the research on site. Like, you can see some things online, but you can't see everything unless you pay, right? But you can still find it out. And I'm going to tell you, a lot of these commercial properties that other people buy, they get bought and sold without ever being advertised publicly. And they certainly don't always put a sign out. So you want to make sure that you ask around if you're looking for property. You ask around, you dig around, you find properties, you do research. Now, as far as properties that people are trying to sell, these are some websites that you can use. Again, if you screenshot my slide, please send a donation. PayPal or Cash App, Queen of Cash Flow, send a donation to the Global Youth Initiative. All right, but these are some of the places you can go to look up. And of course, any of your local real estate places, they will usually have some. Okay. Banks, you could also try talking to banks, and you could also try talking to your county or parish, because some of them will have properties that are adjudicated properties. Many are moving to clearinghouses like Civic Source and stuff like that, but some still have lists available of properties that people haven't paid their taxes in so long and didn't get sold, depending on the jurisdiction you're in, where you can just go in there and buy it. Okay. So those are the kinds of things that you could look for when it comes to real estate. I want to encourage you again on looking for the small properties as you're starting to get into it, because a lot of times you're going to have properties that need a little TLC, but they could still be a real solid property. One thing about older property, it's withstood the test of time. Yeah, you got this bigger, better deal, this nice new facility that's been built, but you don't know if that's going to handle them Texas tornadoes or those Florida hurricanes, you know? You might also have apartments that are perfectly good apartments. They're well built. And a lot of times the older apartments are more soundproof than the newer ones, right? They just might need some cosmetic updating. There's these things that you can find if you will go around and you will look for what we call driving for dollars, where you can go around and look for places that look like they're kind of halfway in, halfway out, but they might be able to make you some good money. All right. I want to reiterate, a lot of the juicy commercial deals are not going to be for sale the way you would expect them to be. You might find some listed, you might find, because again, there's no consumer protections. So let me explain that for a second. Let me go back here. So with a house, if I go to a realtor, and I was a realtor for 10 years, right? So somebody brought a property to me. I can't say, oh, they want to sell this house and they owe 100,000 on it, but it's really worth 150. I can't say as a realtor that I'm just going to give them 125 for it and then I'm going to turn around and sell it for 150. That's kind of what a wholesaler does, right? I can't do that with my own listing. That's not legal in real estate brokerage for a client to do a realtor to do their client that way. There's a consumer protection that the jurisdiction puts over you. You can't do things like that to them to protect that homeowner. But when you are selling commercial property, there are no protections like that for the owner of the commercial property. There are protections for the people who walk in the store as customers and buy the stuff in the store. So you have to have bathrooms and you have to have an exit and you have to have the well-lit signs and all that. There's that kinds of laws, but not protection when you go to buy or sell commercial real estate. Okay. So because of that, not every deal is going to be out there on the website for you to find. It's really about relationships, networking, and negotiating things into a deal. Sometimes things aren't deals until you make it one. Okay. And I do also want you to be aware of what they call the 1031 exchange. We talked a little bit about that in residential. It also applies to commercial as well, depending on the situation. All right. All right, we're not going to spend too much time on that. Okay, so once you find a property, you've driven around, you found a property you think is interesting, or you've gone out to LoopNet or one of those other sites that I mentioned, and you find something, then you want to do your research. You want to find out as much as you can because, again, you're new at this. So you don't want to just go buy a retail strip center and you've never rented in one, right? Like I've helped people. I've been helping churches. It's funny. For a while I was like the church lady when I was with Long and Foster in Maryland and then with Keller Williams in Virginia. When I moved, I was like the church lady. Like I was going to help you find a storefront and then help you find find a church building or a building you could convert to a church, right? Like that was my thing, you know. And so I had experience with that because of the nature of helping other people find places to rent, right? So I had some experience with that. But if you've never had experience with a commercial property, well, you don't want to just buy it from somebody and now you planted your flag out there and you hung your shingle on the door. Our retail strip center's open for business. Come on, everybody, open your smoothie shop and open your hair shop and come on over here and rent my storefronts so you can open your shop. You don't want to just do that. You want to get mentored. And one of the best ways to get mentored is by an owner that you've built a relationship with, if they are available and willing. Okay. Another thing that you're not going to do that yet, though. Let me qualify that. You're finding this research so you can build this relationship. But before you build a relationship, you got to find out whether or not this property is any good. You want to find out about the management. You want to find out who the tenants are and what they're like. You want to walk the property and find out about the empty units. I know everybody says you can just buy stuff sight unseen on the internet and then you can sell it sight unseen on the internet. And there are people who make a lot of money doing that. I personally don't recommend it because half the properties I have found on the internet really were duds. They were either burnt down or they had this problem or that problem, or they were covered in mold on the outside with green stuff growing out the windows on the inside, you know? So I'm just like, your mileage may vary. But I'm going to recommend that you go and actually walk the property, that you talk to the tenants. A lot of times when I'm thinking about buying something or putting an offer in on something, I'm talking to the tenants as if I'm going to be a tenant. Like I'm trying to open up a business. And do I know if anybody in there's planning on moving soon? And because I really like that location, and what's the landlord like? Or if there's an empty unit there, what's the landlord been like? What's the management been like? What's the property been like? You can find out a lot when you go in and talk, and I'm not lying to them. I truly am buying properties that I'm going to put my business in, or I'm going to put a business that I own or run in. So I want to know, how is it like to be a tenant here? What is it like to be in one of these units? What is it like? What are the customer complaints when they walk up and down the street? Do all the lights shut off at 10? Does the parking lot is the parking lot ill designed? I mean, these are all the kinds of things that I want to know, because they represent areas that I can improve when and if I take over the property. These are areas that I can improve that then add value. And when we add value to a commercial property, we increase its profitability. And when we increase its profitability, now we increase the return on investment. And when we increase the return on investment, now we can get more money for that property. So what does that sound like? Oh, it sounds like JJ's trying to put this property in a position to flip it. Now, I don't like to flip stuff. I like to buy and hold, but I do like Michael Gerber with the E-Myth talks about for businesses. I do that for real estate. I don't take a piece of property and don't look for a way that I can't turn this thing around and sell it. And Michael Gerber, in that book, he talks about how a lot of us start businesses and we don't actually start a business that can be packaged and sold. But if we would start a business with the intent that one day we're going to package and sell it, it allows us to find greater efficiencies, reduce unnecessary costs, and also put processes in place that make it a business and not just another job. Same thing with our investing, same thing with commercial real estate. All right. I may never sell that property, but I'm going to treat it as if I want to package this up and sell it to somebody else as an investor and claim my profit. Remember, we make our money when we buy. So you want to go in and do that kind of research, okay? You want to make sure you understand what you're going to do with that property based on your research, okay? Am I going to just buy and hold? Do I need to finance it? Again, I know there's a lot of people who go back and forth on this, and I'm a little hesitant on financing, because I've gotten I've had issues with it, right? But if you are going to go with financing, who's going to cover that? Is it you? Is it the owner? Is it a hard money lender? Are you going to wholesale it to another investor? Are you going to turn it around and flip it like I was just discussing? Are you going to lease option or subject to it, like the one I was about to buy? That was a subject to deal. All I had to do was take over the payments, y'all. Oh my goodness, I wish that deal would have gone through, but it was not the right place and the right time for my family situation, okay? One of the easiest things that you can do to make a profit is improve the return on investment. And I just talked you through how you can identify without even depending on the owner to give you the details, because they're not gonna. Okay, let's just get that out of the way. Like, oh, I want you to submit your rent, and I want you to submit the cost, your maintenance costs, and I want you to tell me how much it costs for electricity to keep the lights on in the parking lot, and I want you to tell me how much the tenants are paying their share of the taxes, and the owner's like, oh yeah, 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 yeah. Y'all, I have been renting a unit that I tried to buy the building of, and had the owner falsify how much our church was paying rent in an attempt to increase the return in an attempt to increase the value of their property. Okay, so even if you get that stuff, a lot of times you can't trust it. All right. All right, so there's other ways that you can find commercial properties that you can get into at a discount, or that you can get into with a limited amount of extraness. Okay, and one of those extraness, that's a technical term. One of those is looking for, just like with residential, for rent, for sale. I don't see too many commercial for sale by owners in the market that I'm at, but when I started in real estate, I used to see that more often. Okay, you can also get the commercial listings and you can age them. So for residential, you might age that listing 2 or 3 months before you call to see if that's available. Well, with a commercial one, maybe you'd wait 4 or 5 months, okay? And then you call them and see if they're still got a lot of empty units. Maybe they're willing to make a deal with you. Maybe they're willing to mentor you so that you can actually learn how to run a property and make money with it, and learn all the mistakes they're making so you can turn it around and make a better profit. All right. All right, let's see what we've got here. Okay, so I am going to talk a little bit about commercial rents. Don't worry about all the math on the slide. I'm going to show you it in a picture. Okay, so here is a listing. Here is a listing that is a real listing that I was looking at. Oh wow, this is probably this is back when I was in Virginia. Okay, here's a listing that I was looking at, and it has 2 units. Okay, the first unit here 1083. That's the first unit, and the second unit is 1103. Okay, now in a later slide, I think I make a comment like, I really don't know which one is which. I'm just guessing by the rent that the top one is the cheaper one. Okay, you see here that it says in the listing it says 1083-1103 SF is square feet. Then you've got 1330-1850. That's the range of the rents. Okay, so you've got the whole office condo there. So this is probably one of those where each of these sections is an office condo. Okay, and this particular owner has 2 units in their office condo, so they may own this. Okay, or there might be the whole thing as one, but in that area of the country, there are a lot of office condos. Okay, so the way we would calculate this out, okay, I'm just assuming that the top one is the smaller one and it's the cheaper price. It may not be, but this is just my assumption for the purpose of this exercise. The way you would calculate this out is you multiply the number of square feet by the amount of dollars. And since it says per square foot per year beneath that circle, and for those of you who are not, those of you who are on free conference call, this is one of those times you really do want to go look at the slide, okay? Because it shows you how you calculate this out. So I can multiply that out, and I can see that that's 1,200 per month. So I'm going to multiply the square foot by the amount per square foot. I'm going to divide by 12 months per year to get $1,200 per month. Okay. Same thing with the next one. The next one, I'm going to do that same math. 1103 times 1850. That's amount per total year. That's going to divide that by a 12-month year to give me 1,700 a month. Okay, and I can add those together to get the whole thing. Now, like I was saying, the rents could be swapped. I just assumed that, it was what it was. It could be that the smaller unit is actually the one downstairs and that's a higher rent or something like that. I don't know, but that's how you would calculate the rents. Okay, so I want to go through this just briefly just so you can just kind of see some of these. This was from when I was really looking to buy a place, and I found a beautiful place to buy. There's a reason. We'll talk more about that. It was not one of these. But if you look at these listings, you see some really cool things here. Like here's one you see. You could rent and you could be right by a CVS. Wait, let me make sure y'all can see these slides. Okay, yeah, you can see them. You're going to be right by a CVS. And if you're by the CVS, that means a lot of people are parking there every day. And so you're going to get a lot of visibility. And so you may, you notice that the price on that one is negotiable, but they have small units up to good size units, and they have 3 spaces available, and there's a lot of goings on in here, so this could be a good place to search, except that it doesn't tell me what I need to know, which is how much the price is. Well, with an anchor like CVS, I already know that's going to be outside of my budget, so let me keep on down. I look at this one, Hayfield Shopping Center. Wait a second. In a highly traveled road, giant anchor, as well as Subway, McDonald's, and Crest Cleaner directly on Telegraph Road. Y'all, I used to live around the corner from this place. This is one of the most raggediest shopping centers you ever saw. That's why it's in here. It's raggedy, and it was very, very congested, and it had one of those things that scrape, when you try to come out, it's on a big hill, so it scrapes up the bottom of your car. And look at this, $28 per square foot per year. No way would I pay that much to be in there. You notice they don't have any picture, right? And they don't even tell you who the anchor was. And the thing is, their biggest anchor had just moved out. So, or, there's a reason some of these things are. Here's a nice looking new one, Kingstown Town Center, Kingstown Building K. Kingstown, it was really beautiful, very brand new. It had just been built, So I'm not going to I'm not going to knock that one, I'm not going to knock that one, but I'm also not going to pay to be a part of a brand new thing because I'm trying to look for something I can buy that's going to give me a discount. So when we look at these here, here's another continuation of that. You've got more of the new ones from Kingstown. Okay. And some of these are not always a bad deal. Like if you get something new, this is like model drawings. This is not a real picture. You can see it's like a CGI generated kind of thing. When you get things like that, sometimes they'll be willing to work with you just to get people in there, because once they get you in there, you know, um, once they get you in there to rent, then you might be able to leverage those relationships. But I'm not looking to rent, I'm looking to buy. Okay. So I'm skipping that. This one here is a really nice one. This is where the other Keller Williams was for a while. I should have never mind. No, Long and Foster. Long and Foster wasn't that one. All right. Anyway, I get distracted there. And then I see this one down here. This little raggedy looking thing. Look at that. This raggedy looking, but you see, you see that it's got some potential there. You see that it's got some lower prices. Okay. And this is renting, but this one's been for rent for so long. This one's had so much for rent, and at 9221 square feet, 9221 square feet is about half of this building. Okay. It looks long here, but if you've seen this building in person, it's way longer than it is deep. Okay. You also know that this is one of those cameras that makes this look like it's a huge parking lot, and it's not really. So if I'm looking for something I can eventually buy, whether it's office condos in something like this, or if it's something that I'm looking to, that even though this is for rent, I'm looking for stuff to buy. I'm using the rent listings to try and get my foot in the door of finding stuff to buy. This one that I've just spent the time talking about is the one I would go to, because this is the one where I've driven past this property a million times. I know what I could do to improve the flow of the parking. I know what I could do to improve the landscaping, the facade, and I know that if I acquire this property, I already know right away, because I've talked to the tenants, because I was thinking about renting in there. I already know right away what are some things I could do to turn it around. Okay. And so this here is something that you could quickly turn around, increase your rents, and get, because the rents are, excuse me, your rents are, your rents can be raised once you add value. You got to add value first. Okay. Mm, excuse me. So I want to go back to this. I want to go back to this idea of subletting and all that. I'm looking at stuff that's for rent because I'm trying to find something to buy, and I'm trying to get my foot in the door of commercial real estate. Sometimes you can work some really creative solutions, maybe even if they're looking at, um it's not a co-op. What is it? I'm sorry, y'all. That's probably getting into it too advanced of a topic, but there's other things that you can do with the property. It's not just office condos or renting or buying the whole thing. Okay. All right, but that's not really important to what we're talking about today. Okay. So this is the slide that I probably should have had earlier, and I was talking about it, so I'm not going to go into all the calculations, but generally speaking, when you have a commercial property, you're valuing it by the cap rate, which is what your return on investment is called for a commercial property. So basically, it measures how fast you get back your initial investment. When I gave the example about the property, with the billboard that we were going to pay $1 million for, and it was going to be $100,000 a month back, right? And so it's $100,000 a month contract back, but it's not necessarily. And I said it was a 10 cap, right? And somebody who does math might say, well, gee, that's actually $120,000 a year, and it's only $1 million cost, so that would really be a 12 cap. Well, it's not really, because you also have to take out the expenses. So that plot of land, somebody's got to cut that grass. JJ Conway's not cutting that grass. right? Somebody's got to maintain the fencing. Somebody's got to maintain the property. You know, like all of that has to happen, and I'm not doing that. So I'm going to pay somebody to do that. And so, you know, you just factor in a thing. You might factor in issues with, you know, occasional lapses in different contracts of things. You know, you have one provider or another provider. So you factor all those things into your cap rate if you are honest. Because the cap rate is basically your profit divided by your cost. So I estimated 100,000. Oh my goodness, I said that example so wrong. I said that example so wrong. Oh my goodness, y'all. I'm so lame. I'm so lame. It was $100,000 a year. But it was $10,000 a month, $12,000. Wait a second. Janine, get your head screwed on straight. $1 million. Yeah, 120 a year. I said a month. I think I said a month. It wasn't 120 a month. It was 120 a year minus 20. So it was 100,000 per year with $1 million investment. Wow, I don't even know if I'm gonna be able to fix that recording now. Yeah. So those of you who've stayed on this long, I apologize. I can tell I'm getting tired, but I don't wanna not cover some of these things. But it's basically profit over cost. So if I paid $1 million for this property and I'm profiting $100,000 a year for it, that's going to be $100,000 divided by $1 million gives you a 10% cap rate. Okay, it's a 10% rate of return. Ah, my caution to you when you get started in real estate investing is to realize that a lot of people look at creative ways to do it. Okay. I want to warn you against that because, and we're going to skip all this. Okay. I don't want to get everybody bogged down in the calculations, but if that's something that you're wanting to do, we can sit down and do that. Okay. I'm just going to scroll these real quick. But there are so many creative ways that people say it. So I even had somebody pitch to me one time. They said, "Well, this particular property has a was it like a it was like a 2,000 cap rate," and I was like, "What? How could it be a 2,000 cap?" I like that didn't even make any sense to me, right? What they did, this is creative. What they did was they had the property. Wow, I promise I did my hair before this class. What they did is they had this property. They brought in joint venture partners. They used private lenders or joint venture, however they structured it. They basically used other people's money to buy this property. They they calculated the cap rate of the property based on what slim amount of money they put in out of their own pockets. And I was like, now see, this is why you give investors a bad name. So you got to be, when people give you these rates, you got to really see what they went into for calculating it. And then you got to remember that people lie and numbers can be adjusted. And a lot of times people don't really know. They don't really know what the stuff is, you know, they don't really know a lot of things that they're trying to pretend that they know. So you want to make sure that you're actually getting the best records you can. And a lot of times people are going to fluff up what a property is doing. This is why commercial deals take so long. Like if you ever go to one of those classes where they're like, yeah, if you get this done in 6 months, we'll give you all your money back from the class if you get a deal done. Well, it's because it takes like a year to do all the due diligence for a lot of these big deals, right? And so small mom and pop deals, you can get done faster and with less due diligence. But again, my little covert technique that I told you about walking in and talking to the other tenants before they know you're trying to buy it, that's going to get you a lot more information about the property than asking the property manager unless they are super on top of their game. And chances are if you have a property that's performing well and super on top of the game, the only time they're really selling that property is if the owner has passed away and the heirs want the money. So if it's any other situation, you need to have your ears out looking for clues, all right? Listening for clues. All right. You're going to want to try to get the leases. That's going to be hard to do sometimes, but it depends on the situation. Again, a small mom and pop deal is going to be easier to do that with than if you're trying to buy a $20 million mall on your first deal. Okay. And again, we did talk about how nonprofit or low profit organizations, they don't represent a good return on investment to a banker or savvy investor. So even if I'm teaching you how to invest without going into debt, you want to know what makes that property look good to the banker because it's the banker who's going to fund the investor that might buy it from you once you turn it around and you profit enough from it and you want to move on to the next property. All right, so here's some ways that you can research commercial property and kind of get a feel for it. There are other places that you can go to pull. You can pull the I think it's Best Places, and I think CoStar maybe, where you can go and pull the, how much the traffic is driving through there and things like that. All of that's going to go through and help you determine what the value is of something before you buy it, or when you make your relationship with the owner. Here's an example of a property that I drove past, and I said, "Oh, let me look it up." And I was able to go into the situation and go into the online and look it up. We do have that here in Erath County. I wasn't able to figure out how to do it in time for this class. We also, if you go on my Driving for Dollars website, not my website. If you go to my Driving for Dollars class, you see an example of how to do this for uh, Caddo Parish and Bossier Parish, Louisiana, as well as Prince George's County, Maryland. So between all of these, remember this used to all be one day of a class. Between all of these, you got all the jurisdictions that I had done real estate in up until that point. So let's see. Again, this is a fundraiser, and I think that's my last class. Again, the biggest thing the biggest thing that I want you to take away about commercial is that you can do it. It does take more research. The dollar signs are bigger, but the dollar signs are bigger all around. It does take a little bit more buyer beware because there's no consumer protections. And the payoff for building profitable relationships is even more than residential. I don't ever want you to feel like you're limited in your dream. I have found that for myself, it was easier to buy a commercial property than it was to try to rent one, because some of the jurisdictions that I lived in, they didn't like women to have businesses, or some of the jurisdictions that the military has sent us, they didn't like people of color to have businesses. But somehow, when you're able to buy something, it changes the situation. Okay. So, I just want you to be encouraged that this is something that you can pursue. And if you feel like it's something you want to pursue, I'm going to offer you the opportunity to learn more. Now, you saw I skipped a lot of slides. I hid the slides with all the scripts and everything because we actually do talk through um, the script, and we practice, how would you call somebody up and what would you ask them and what would you say if you walked into this thing, just so people have a comfort level. And if that's something that you're interested in, that's something you can connect with me on. And if I get enough interest, we'll set it up. I like to do those in person. So what I'm going to ask you to do is I'm going to ask you to get at least 5 or 6 people, and yourself, your friends, your family, your church group, your civic group, whatever, your lunch bunch at your work. Get a group together and let's do this thing in person. Okay. Or I'll be on the Zoom and you all will be in person, because we do a lot of interaction and script and role play and things like that, where it's just not the same. It's not the same on Zoom. It doesn't give you the same feeling as walking into one of the storefronts of a retail strip mall that you're wanting to buy, or walking into the apartment complex, or walking into the property manager. Okay. All right. So I have 2 opportunities for you to dig deeper. Both of them you can access by filling out the Calendly appointment there. That will kind of give you some qualifying questions, and then you set up an appointment with me. One is the look over my shoulder. I call it JJ's Next Deal. Yeah, really creative, super creative there. But that's basically what it is. I'm going to start buying Texas real estate, and I still have property in Louisiana. I still have property in Maryland, and you can look over my shoulder as I execute that property. You can look over my shoulder and you can learn from my successes and mistakes. That's what the Next Deal class is. If you want to dig deeper and you're able to make it a um, more significant financial commitment, that's when we're getting into opportunities to joint venture with me, basically partnering. Now, I do qualify on here. This is not an investment. This is more of a limited partnership kind of thing. And we structure the deal based on who's coming into the deal. Okay. But basically we are working on this together. You are earning while you learn, but because this isn't your traditional kind of investment or a traditional kind of real estate um, JV, then I really don't feel comfortable going into the details online. Okay. So if you're interested, your starting place is at calendly.com/JJConway/REI101. It'll have a form for you to fill out. You'll book an appointment with me. We'll Zoom or phone one-on-one so we can get a feel for each other and how I can best serve you and which of those avenues would be best for your real estate future. All right, that's all that I have for you all today. I'm going to leave up that slide real quick. I'm going to look through the comments. I'm going to look through free conference call and see if there's any questions. I don't see any hands raised on free conference call. Let me go now to Ask JJC and see if we have any new questions that were submitted. And I do see some new submissions. Let me see if those are regarding tonight's class or are those for the fireside, the next fireside chat. Come on, load. Okay, nope, those are for the next fireside chat. Okay, well, that's all I've got for you all today. I want to thank you all for being online. I know I'm a little tired, and I know that some of my answers and things kind of got a little wonky there, but I hope you got the intent, and the intent is for you to up-level yourself, have something to leave to the next generation, for you to walk in abundance and leave a legacy. I'm JJ Conway. I want to thank you for being here tonight. Y'all take care and be blessed.